Welcome, guys, to Cut the Curve. I'm Philip Zweig, where I interview entrepreneurs, moguls.
Hold on, let's start again.
Let's start again.
What's wrong?
You
Jet's getting over here
you
hyped
little
up.
shit.
Jet's getting hyped
We're
up.
starting up.
He's like, nah.
You know what? I think can you turn that couch around? Because Isaac used to hook him up. Jet, as soon as we start, listen to you. That wasn't your cue.
I started hearing him scratching.
I mean, does he just chill like if he's in a couch?
I don't know.
He usually can't. Like he won't. He just likes to see us.
Yeah.
So he's.
I would just say have him down here if he's already like just put him right here on that little bed couch or whatever you got.
Yeah, I don't know. Does he approach you guys or not?
Sometimes he gets close to the camera and stuff, like
okay,
in here, and that's why Isaac was like, "Let's just throw the couch." But I think you have to turn that couch around.
Like that still doesn't bother me. Like, but it's your, like I'm saying, it's your set, your show. But if it's like, I don't care because I got dogs. Like I think after the pandemic, the realer people see some of that stuff happen, people love that shit.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Like it's after the pandemic, a lot of shit changed in the way content's presented, man. And the more real situations and scenarios, sometimes it's like.
Do you want me to call you Crisco? Because you're known as Crisco Kid. I don't.
Just say Crisco. You can say that. Josh. I mean, people, but. Yeah, when I do real estate, it's Josh. But as soon as they find out, then it just depends on who it is.
Gotcha.
If it's like a referral that comes in, like one thing I've been noticing with like Jason Mitchell Group, because I switched brokers last month, and so it's been cool getting an abundant amount of leads now.
So yeah, now you just
with
gotta
James,
figure out like which ones to go after.
Kinda, yeah. So like, the test. Like I can test them within 2 questions and know exactly
So
if they're ready to, you know what I mean? And then if not, then it goes back to the lead, or I'll just say, hey, let me kind of incubate them. And then when they're ready, and then I may have somebody that I'm working with, because I have 2 people that help out. I'll just say, hey, can you kind of, well, we could talk about that, because you know how that goes.
All right, Marcos, if Jet starts doing anything, you know what, you're in control of that stuff. So let's
just don't hit him with a tranquilizer dart in the neck, like on old school. Oh, you're crazy, man.
All right.
Cool, so that's still rolling. Audio's still going. I'm just going to repeat the 3.
Yeah, all good.
Yep.
All right, guys. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome everyone to Cut the Curve. I'm Philip Flipman Zweig, and I'm honored today to have our guest from Phoenix, Arizona, local radio station here in town that's killing it. His name is Crisco.
Yeah,
welcome Crisco, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, man, 101.1 to bounce. I got to plug it. 101.1 to bounce.
That's my favorite station.
Thank you. Valley's throwback station, and then of course Pitbull's Globalization, Channel 13 on Sirius XM every weekdays or weekends. Do some weekday stuff depending on what we got going on. Like Super Bowl was crazy.
Oh, I bet.
So that was sporadic throughout the week. So we just doing this radio thing, real estate, and dabble in some restaurant stuff here and there, man.
Love it. So, guys, we're like chatting it up here, like we're hanging out at the bar, and you guys are peeking in. So it's the best of both worlds, man. I'm just gonna chill with Crisco here, find out more where he's from and what he does. But the show is based on entrepreneurs, moguls, and cutting the curve, helping others learn, whether it's radio, whether it's your real estate experience. So we'll dive into that.
Yeah, and I like Cut the Curve. I like one thing that I've enjoyed when I watch your YouTube videos and when I've seen your guest is. Everyone has a different story, right? Everyone is bringing a little something different to the game. And by cutting the curve, some people are always looking for the life hacks. And one thing I believe is like use life, because we've all gone through so many great experiences to where cutting the curve can help you sometimes. And then sometimes you got to go back and understand what you cut. You know what I mean? Take the shortcut, take the life hack. That's cool.
Life hacks.
But go back and understand when it's right for you to go back and understand what was happening behind the curve.
It's very personal too, and wherever you're at in your journey, right? Like we're all at different spots and different spaces.
Yes, because that's where the magic happens sometimes.
That.
We all want the instant things, but sometimes it's that magic that you want to go back and you want to discover, whether it's personal or whether it's professional.
That's where the growth is. Yes, that's a great point. I love that. So that's a good way to start. Let's basic question. Where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so originally from Houston, Texas. I've done radio
shout
in
out.
Houston, Albuquerque, New Mexico, back to Houston, back to Albuquerque, and went to LA for about 5 years, Dallas, and now been in Phoenix, Arizona. This will be my 7th year coming up in July.
Fantastic.
And it has gone by super fast, man.
Fantastic, man.
I came here on the hottest, it was 4th of July weekend. And I remember driving in from Dallas, and I'm like, God Almighty, it is hot. It was the summer
And it
where it
gets
was like,
hotter, I think.
well, it was the summer where it was like 120, 119, 123, where they were
For
grounding
you guys who haven't
airplanes.
been out here in the summer, it's I've been out here 20 years. You never get used to it.
Yeah,
AC.
It's a dry heat. Yeah, it was dry because I was dehydrated, and then I was thinking,
I'm getting
was
thirsty
this the
thinking
right
about
move?
that shit.
It was so hot, yeah, man. But I don't regret anything. It's been a
Phoenix
great,
is a wonderful
great market.
city,
Yes.
market. It's robust. It's expanding, man.
People are great, and it's diverse. Houston, coming from just a melting pot and being raised there, I was fortunate enough to grow up in just a diverse communities, all white, black, brown, Asian.
That's what I love about this Central Phoenix vibe. I'm
Right.
down there quite a bit, like work-wise and, just entertainment.
Yep. And so it was just natural growing up like that. And I've always felt at home, and I felt I could do greater things when there were communities that reflect just a great multicultural composition.
And
as
all that
people,
comes
man.
together.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Poetic Soul?
Yeah, on Wednesday nights downtown, right? Yep.
Yes.
I've been there.
A buddy of mine took me over there, Joshua. His name's Joshua.
Yeah.
You're Josh, but
Yeah.
he took me over there like a month and a half ago, and man,
Okay.
I love the vibe, the energy. They're into a lot of poetry, a lot of great music. The gal that was there last week, they have about 14 acts. She actually sang the national anthem at the Suns Arena, so beautiful voices. And
Was that Sandra Bassett?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's. No, I think I got that.
I
correct,
think so. Yeah. So, if you guys haven't checked that out, that's one of my favorite Wednesday night things to do.
Yeah,
Just
it's
go
cool.
listen to it.
And there's a lot you can take advantage of in the city while you're here, whether you're visiting or whether you're moving here.
That's just one thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's disappointing sometimes when people visit here and they say that they didn't have a good experience or they didn't. I don't know, it was all right. I'm like, I don't think you had the right tour guide. I don't think you got to really. Same thing with Houston or in Dallas, in Albuquerque. I mean, you just have to find the right people that appreciate the culture in the city and that really know it, because there is something great in every city. It's just up to the people that you know, including yourself, to go find it. But Phoenix is amazing.
Like, there's publications where you could look, what's going on in the city if you don't know anyone. But like, I go to Encanto with my friend Morgan once in a while, and she lives down there, and she takes me to these little places that you never hear of. And I'm like, that is super amazing to have that kind of really traditional food and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Arizona is a food hub.
Yeah,
so I feel like we should be paid from the Department of Tourism to talk about all this stuff that we have happening. But no, when you're excited and you really love where you live, I think it comes natural to talk about the great things that are happening. We just had Super Bowl. You just had Taylor Swift, AKA Swift City. Glendale changed the name. I actually talked with the city manager of Glendale yesterday. They have a lot of developments coming up. And I think that's not going to be the last time that we see artists and them embracing who is playing at State Farm Stadium, at Desert Diamond Arena. They're in the works of doing something great with the Glendale Amphitheater.
Man.
So there's a lot of things happening in the future in Glendale, and a lot of cities. Gilbert, I call it the Battle of the G's, because Gilbert.
That's where we're at right now. The studio's in Gilbert, South Chandler. And you travel an hour?
Yeah, about 53. There ain't no doubt. It was 53 minutes on the GPS. But to see Gilbert and Glendale and Mesa, everyone who was in charge of their economic development. So from the mayor aspect to the city manager to the planners to the chiefs of economic development, and what they're doing to really revitalize and just bring these cities to the forefront. In tourism, I mean, it's a real competition in every city in the valley, stepping up to compete.
For those people that are traveling transit that want to make it home here, right? So
Right.
where are you going to go? Are you going to go to Gilbert or Glendale? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And you know what? It's really great for dogs. If you have pets in the valley, in Phoenix and Glendale, Gilbert, Mesa, Avondale, Litchfield Park, Laveen, it's really dog friendly. This is a dog friendly valley. So, matter of fact, Jet,
come on,
Where's
get
Jet?
down, Jet. We're
You
gonna
can
let
probably hear
Jet
Jet in the
down
back.
because Jet's our big baby here. He's a
Yeah.
10-year-old chocolate lab who I've had since a puppy, and we're trying to keep him upstairs, but he wants to see you guys.
And I don't blame him. We have a
Yeah.
lot of good gems we're about to drop. I have a feeling.
Fact.
And,
So come on down, Jet.
Bring him down. So we're talking about just some of the great things that are happening here in Arizona. I know that's how we became familiar with each other is through Instagram.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
and the reason I'm putting these two together is because like we were talking about food, talking about places to eat, talking about things that are happening around a city and learning the culture. Instagram was key in developing this conversation. And us
And
being
just
here
our
today.
introduction, right? Like,
Right. And just because I've been able to see what you're doing within the real estate realm, right? And how you went from the flipping aspect to now or wholesaling to the Airbnbs.
Correct.
And a lot of people are looking at short-term rentals, whether you're from
Shout
California.
out to Jet.
There's Jet.
Celebrity.
Yeah. See, dog friendly. That's what I'm talking about. Dog friendly. Love it out here. But just seeing the business and the development and the growth and how you're pivoting what you've been doing in real
Fact,
estate. Because you've been at least 20 years, right?
Yeah, over 2 decades. And you talk about time flying. It's just, so get to know what you want to do and keep at it, guys, because you're always pivoting within the space, right? I've been in real estate, but I haven't been doing the same thing. Like I had to pivot the last 3 years, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah, so I'm going to flip it real quick. I'm going to interview you.
Okay.
And whether you want to call it an interview, just a conversation. It's just kind of how I am. It always happens like this where I'm on someone's show, but then I just ask questions because I'm genuinely interested. And I think sometimes when we're watching Instagram or the shorts and the stories, we don't get your full story on exactly what you're doing and how you've, like we just said, pivoted.
Okay.
In radio, we've pivoted. Chefs and restaurant businesses, they've pivoted. I think Zoom and social media was instrumental in that. And let's bring all that together to where you've been able to take your business in real estate and what you've seen, the trends that you've seen 2021, 22, 23 now, and what you're seeing for the rest of this year.
Okay. First of all, thank you for asking me those great questions, because I know a lot of you guys want to hear my story too from time to time. But so one of the things that's consensus, I'd say, Crisco, is you can't be the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. You constantly have to be around smarter male, female energy to do it. And then you have to have a team with you too, right? You have to have interior designers. You have to have people running it, because when I start getting into my own way, that's when the problem arises. I've been through that. I'm a solo entrepreneur, but now I have the right pieces to become the entrepreneur, because the solo entrepreneurs, you're pretty much self-employed. You're not actually, running systems, creating, passive income coming through. So I got into Airbnb after I learned, after a lot of heartache, because I got sick about 4 years ago. And, when I was sick, my business didn't run, because I'm the one running the fix and flip crews and doing all that. So after I got healthy again back in 2019, I'm like, what am I going to do? I love real estate. My buddy Sasha, shout out to Sasha. He was from Quebec, Canada. I taught him how to wholesale about 15 years ago, and he got into Verbo. So he taught me in 2019. He's like, Flip, I got a house for sale off 44th and McDowell. We were having lunch, and he's like, you want to buy it? It was an Airbnb for 8 years. I'm like, I only buy wholesale, Sasha. He's like, well, sorry, it's retail. And I went to look at it. I saw the numbers. 2019 December, January 7th, my grandma's birthday, 2020, I bought my first Airbnb that had already been running for 8 years. Put a new couch in there. A week later, I got my first booking.
Nice.
So that was great. Got me into the game, but I still get fear too. I'm like, shit, COVID came up. What do I do? Do I buy 4 more from this doctor and nurse that are getting divorced? And I had those in escrow, but then March came and I should have bought them. I hate saying shoulda, woulda, coulda, because we crushed it during COVID, that period of growth, because people did not want to stay in hotels or any of that.
Right.
So lesson learned, you make decisions and then you stick to them. And since then, we've bought properties that did not work for the current economy. So the last quarter of last year, we started seeing which ones were non-performing. We started selling those off, and yesterday I just sold my last one of the 5 that I got rid of in surprise, because
I remember you talking about a couple that weren't
producing.
It just wasn't right for you, right? And what you were doing. And so you've already sold all those.
Yes. And when you're going through that stuff, you got to dig deep, because that's what you do. And you have to believe it and push it. And so finally we got those out. Now we're just focused on 3 different types of properties. 1 is luxury. 2 is the midterm, which is a 28-day stay, and 3 is creating like short-term experiences. That's it. I'm not going to throw a couch and bed into an apartment and think that we're going to get bookings or make revenue, because there's too many people that are trying to get into Airbnb business as a mom and pop, and yeah, we want the lowest price and the nicest. So that business model, we had to pivot.
Right. Which is interesting, because there would be apartments or condos that do come up, and you think like, okay, it's similar, it's not enough, it's not a tremendous amount of square footage that you're having to flip or redesign. But you're right. I think for a minute it was becoming just super saturated.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a catch-22, where to me, I look at Airbnb, I look at short-term rentals, let's just call them that.
Yep.
And then I look at, because being in radio, I talk to so many people every week.
Sure.
I've been doing this for 20 plus years. 24 years to be
24.
exact.
Oh, man. I'm at 23. I may be at 24 too in real estate. We'll have to check that.
Yeah.
Damn, but still, that is a pro. If someone has, and my mentor always told me that, he's like, Phil, stay in the same, all his friends are in their 80s now, but those who are most successful, they're in Oregon, and there are a lot of farmers and stuff, but they stayed in whatever their niche was, and they kept getting better.
Right.
And staying in that space and moving.
Consistently improving as well. Or
consistently
trying to better your best.
Constantly, never-ending improvement, right?
Yeah, and just with talking with so many people, I've had to see the positive side of short-term rentals, and then I've seen the negative effects. Affordable housing, like we're definitely in a crisis in Arizona, is what it is termed right now, just because I know some of my clients that...
So wait a minute, you're in real estate too, for those who don't know? Because everyone sees you as a radio personality,
So, good point. So, real estate, I became a realtor in 2017.
Okay.
And part of that was because I should have become a realtor a long time ago. But my girl, we were talking, and she had some friends and other family members that in a Spanish language community, people are constantly taken advantage of by predatory lenders. By
2008, 2000, I was in Arizona. I was in the space. 2005, all that. See, I'm not a realtor, so I just had realtors list those properties, but I'm like, how did someone just qualify for that loan? And
right.
It was like, you knew something was going to happen. And so it was a lot of Hispanic population.
Right.
In Maryville, I was selling a lot of homes down there and fixing them. And
so fast forward to, 2017, 2016, just so many people because of the language barrier. And we know in Arizona, your contract is written in English. There's not a Spanish contract.
Good point.
You have to understand.
So there's no
what you're
Spanish?
signing. There's not a Spanish contract.
Damn.
I've never seen a Spanish
that doesn't
contract.
Sound right.
You have to speak. It's written in English. You have to know English, or your realtor should be doing a job, or you need to have someone translate for you. And what was happening is a lot of people are taking advantage of that, and including saying you have to work with this real estate agent, you have to work with this person, you have to do this, and I didn't like that. Right. And so I was like, I'm gonna become a realtor, A, because I want to buy a house, but B, I keep my own commission, but B, I really want to help people, and I'm not even fluent in Spanish, but my girl is, and I know enough people, and I know enough Spanish to help. Yeah. And so I was like, that's not gonna happen anymore, or I'm gonna do what I can to change that perception. And that's what I've been doing. So it doesn't matter, I'll help out people who are, well known, and then I help out people that don't know anybody but their family. I treat them the same. The dollar amount is different on the property.
Why wouldn't we? And
Exactly.
I don't understand why. Like I do a lot of traveling downtown Phoenix. So what I do is I have Glendale, Phoenix, Mesa. So I go to my properties when they're vacant. I actually stay in them. I would recommend that to anyone that's an owner that wants to really know what their property does, because the property over time changes. Like it gets worn out. So you got to see what needs, how the guest is going to feel in your property. So I go stay there, but I also walk through the communities too. So I want to know what the vibe is in the communities.
And I think that's important. That's what sets you apart, and that's what makes different, realtors, for the good or the bad, right? And it's the realtors that fully understand the community and want to serve, and the ones that super serve, which is, to me, I believe I'm a super server, and not just in real estate, but in radio and people. And I think that's been the difference, is been able to see how affordable housing, and with trying to find the balance between people that are coming in out of state, buying a lot of properties, and just put them on. Back to the point I was making, is just putting them on for short-term rentals, and now the market was just inundated with it, right? And so now we're seeing some of that balance. And at least what I'm seeing is more of a balance.
And that's great, guys, for our economy and for people that couldn't buy homes 2 years ago because of the big box. The iBuyers were taking down everything, and you would have a client maybe that needs a $275,000 house. They can't pay cash. They got a loan. So
and even 275, I wish that we could go back to 275 in some situations, because it is extremely tough to find anything that you want to live in.
Just went
under 300. It's been hard. It's a challenge. And it used to be, well, you want to go out, try going out to Buckeye, go to, Goodyear, and get you something for around 3 maybe. But that has exploded so much to where there's no more go out to the suburbs to try to find something newer.
Because there's a lot of infrastructure there now. There's a lot of commercial, and it's beautiful, and it's well manicured.
And so and so it's all changing. We want growth, right? There's a lot of new development, a lot of new industry, and it's just trying to really find that balance. I do like what Glendale. There was an article that came out yesterday that is Glendale is waiving developer fees in their city, as long as you're providing affordable housing option, right? And so this is good, because this kind of goes with the bill that was passed last week, where Governor Hobbs, she did 2 things. One was the Crown Act, and the other one was talking about or maybe it was the city of Phoenix, non-discrimination of income for the housing. So whether you have someone who may qualify, whether it's Section 8, or if it's some type of federal grant or credit, or if it's someone who has the cash to put down or regular paycheck, there's no discrimination for how the income is going to come in. We'll see within the next couple of months the effect they may have. Is it good? Is it bad? But
the point is, affordable housing is much needed.
It's hugely needed out here.
Needed, and it just gave me an idea. We should raise some money and hop onto that, because it's a great thing to help others, and it's a win-win too. As a developer, you could really do well in this space.
And I think hopefully that other cities, I know Mesa puts in programs to really help, with homelessness and
like the
art and homelessness. I think I've seen a lot of trying to put that in the culture of Mesa and really revitalizing that realm in downtown. But Mayor Corey Woods in Tempe, he's another guy that is a homelessness advocate to fight, right? To find people housing, to find options and opportunities for people. So that's my conversation with Corey that I took away from him, is just that's one thing that he really cares about. College, you think of Tempe, but tech development, you see that, revitalizing certain parts of town, and
there's so much work to be done. It just, like, I go down to McDowell, there's a car wash down there off 16th Street by the hospital, and that whole strip right there is just, it's a gold mine. I don't know if people are starting to revitalize that. I know there's a building going up high over there, but there's so many pockets around Phoenix that need that. And
that's what I say. Phoenix is real pockety, man.
Yeah,
it's real pockety. But it's a lot of opportunity. This is what I'm saying. What makes the valley so great.
Because it's very difficult too. I know Crisco Kid folks back in the day were from Minnesota, and they're trying to, where do we live? They're trying to buy from other states, and you got to be the pockets, like you talked about.
Right.
That realtor hopefully knows the pockets, because I did get one of my students. He got him and his girl way out in Buckeye. He's like, "Oh, we got to move. Like, we don't like Buckeye.
Right.
Why would this realtor stick it?" Because they didn't know. They were from Minnesota, and they got stuck. Not that it's not growing out there, but it's just far for them, for their work.
That's what I tell people again. Like in certain cities, they're like, "Oh, I went to Houston. I lived there." I had this conversation yesterday, and I was living in, I was like, "Well, where did you live?" "Oh, Humble." I go, "Well, the H is silent, so it's Humble, Texas." And I go, "And first of all, that's like living in Apache Junction from Phoenix." And you're saying that you lived in Phoenix? No, you lived in AJ. That is not Phoenix.
Right.
The lifestyle is totally different. There's more horses. There's more things that are happening out that way. Same thing when someone says they live in Queen Creek. Oh, you live in Queen Creek. You don't live in Phoenix. Cave Creek is not Phoenix. You know what I mean? And
100%.
so that can affect. And same thing on the west side. You're in Buckeye. That is Buckeye. But Buckeye is exploding.
It really
Buckeye is exploding right now. And that's what I mean, where you would have, hey, drive out to Buckeye. It ain't like that anymore, because it is really developing at a fast rate. Where there's a destination that people want to be. There's certain families that love Buckeye. Past the 303, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
That new 303 is nice.
Right.
The road and
there's so many things that you can do.
Interestingly enough, we're in the city of Chandler right now, but there's a road called Gilbert. So the city names sometimes throw you off. So if you're actually in Chandler, you could be driving on Gilbert Road. I used to deal with a lot of Canadians. They're like, "Are we in Chandler or are we in Gilbert?" And stuff like that. Phoenix, I know the streets and avenues, though. That grid system is set up so easy.
I think so too. Let's talk about the streets. Put this as a chapter.
There you go.
Chapter mark. Let's talk about streets and avenues. One of the things when I first moved here in 2016, this really, it irritated me. It made me mad, but then I could just laugh, because this shows again.
I want to hear your perspective on that.
This shows again, I think, A, ignorance, but B, the level of success that other radio personalities may or may not have. I champion everyone. I find the good in humanity, and whether in the neighborhood, it may be somewhere you don't want to be. There's champions in there. There's great things in every neighborhood.
Every neighborhood has something that you got to learn from or see, right?
And so when this personality, when she told me, "Oh, Crisco, you don't ever want to go to the avenues. I just stay on the streets." I'm like, "Really? Why would you say that?" "Oh, once you'll get to figure it out, you'll understand why." I'm like, "Okay." But as time went by quickly, because I was like, "Well, what's the difference between the avenues and the streets?" And so I'm like, man, that was just an ignorant thing to say, because is it because it's more Hispanic? Is it because there's more minorities on the west side? And I know it is not it's not the greatest economic, the way it looks. It may not be all gentrified,
but you can learn from that, and there's so much value. So
but I just find that two things are wrong with that, because again, there's room for growth, room for opportunity and development, and then you're missing out on a whole audience that could be listening to you because of your ignorance and your perception that you think people should hang out only in the streets and not the avenues. And that was disheartening to hear. But again, it shows the level of success.
100%.
I go in the streets and the avenues.
I love both the streets and avenues. I'm the guy that I could work in the avenues. I could work in the streets. People are people, and
But you just look at some of the great things that are happening in the Avs. I mean, on the south side of Phoenix, and I think that comes from, again, just ignorance and lack of education and not knowing the market.
I think it's one thing to make that statement, but you understand that that's from her lack of understanding and educating herself, and having more of a closed-minded mind.
Because there's a lot of great things happening in the Avs. There's some great parks. When you go to the south side and you start to see what's happening in Laveen, guess what? Laveen is in the Avs. And how that's exploding right now. Glendale, again, is in the Avs. And so, if you're missing out and you're saying don't go to the avenues.
Do you think it's fear-based or what?
I think in the 90s and the early 2000s, there was a lot of gang activity. Let's just say what it is. We talked about this in Maryville. I'm also going to ASU for my master's in public administration and in the public policy certificate. And so I think we talked about Maryville yesterday as far as with economic development. And I think being called Scaryville at a time in the valley when there was a lot of just gang activity. It is what it is. In certain neighborhoods, I think it did discourage people from wanting to go out that way. And that was a period of time, though, right? There's trends, there's cycles, and I don't think we're in that cycle. To say, I'm not saying there's no gang activity, there's no violence. There's violence everywhere, right? But I think that was definitely a deterrent from people exploring the great things of Maryville, some of the architecture. You got to understand the history of Maryville being one of the first.
Long, shout out to, I mean, how many John F. Long homes down there? And he did them in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right, but to understand that Maryville was the American dream at one point. In the 50s, as the GIs were returning from war after World War II,
what a story.
This is the first master plan community in Arizona. So you got to understand there's history, there's culture in Maryville, and you got to take that and fast forward to the Haber homes, to the Lloyd Wright, the Frank Lloyd Wright architecture and different things that have been happening within the city and within the state. But every pocket has its own culture that you can learn from. And to not want to embrace that, it's not for everybody. I'm not going to push diversity, equity, and inclusion on everyone. I get that, but to not learn and not to want to see opportunity, that is ignorant. And so accept and embrace the avenues just as much as you do the streets, because the most successful people that understand business but understand culture and where you're living, I think those are the people.
We're all about trends, and how do you know trends if you're just viewing it from 360? You got to do deep dives into
You mentioned John Long, and understand that up until his death in 2008. He was very active and still in how the planning went. And by the way, when the golf course was built in Maryville, although blacks and browns could not potentially or possibly afford to live in Maryville at the time, it was important that the golf course and the community remained open to everyone.
Interesting.
Now, I found that interesting yesterday. I didn't know that.
Yeah, me neither.
So I thought that was, you may not afford the house that we're building right now, but everyone is welcome to the golf club. It was supposed to be inclusive for everyone. There's a lot of history out here. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, I love Maryville. That's where I started my game. That was my very first fix and flip off 65th Avenue in Thomas. And I made like $1,000. It was a success to me though, because
of course I
got into the game.
And you learn from it. I mean, Maryville, I do so April 21st to the 23rd.
That's my birthday, 23rd.
23rd? Okay, on a Sunday? So I think it's Sunday this year. So I host a lot of charity toy drives. I do, this is a spring food and diaper drive, and it'll be at the Walmart off 51st Avenue, Indian School Road. So there's two Walmarts. I know that. The big one on 75th and then the one on Indian School in Maryville. And by the way, that shopping strip across the street, that was the first, one of the major shopping strips that was built in Arizona for planning in a neighborhood so that people wouldn't have to leave the suburbs. So that's more history, right? I feel like I know more history about Arizona than people that are from here.
I know. You've only been here since what, 16?
6 years. Yeah, 2016. It's shocking to me.
That's because you entrenched yourself, though. Like,
you have to love the city you're in, the culture, the people. It's important, man. Whether it's radio, real estate, or in restaurants, or whatever I choose to do, right? You have to know.
Everything has to come with passion. Like, why would you do something? That's just me, because I've now experienced what I love doing. Like, if I'm not passionate behind it, I'm not going to be doing it.
I mean, I ran for mayor in 2020, for Phoenix mayor. Obviously, I lost, but I ran for a bigger purpose. And again, this goes back to the abs in the streets. When I hear people say, only in the streets, I'm like, bruh, if you're going to enter public service in any capacity, you have to love all people. You have to serve all avenues and streets. What are you talking about? You have to know your city, man. That's one thing that also bothered me. And there were candidates like that. And there's still candidates like that. You'll see them for the photo ops, but they're not around. They're never in the abs.
We may be sitting with the future mayor here, guys.
I don't know what's going to happen next, but 2024 could be interesting. But love the people, love your community. That's just I guess my main message. And no matter what I'm doing, learn it and know it.
I love that. You know what changed my perspective on fear, I think, Crisco, was when I got sick in 2018. I became a mental health advocate. And so all the support I needed was not in Gilbert or Chandler. It was the Chicano Por Lo Casas, the friendship program I went to get back into life. And, a lot of negativity is around the big cities, but they have a lot of great mental health programs that we don't have in Chandler and Gilbert. So,
so I live in Sunny Slope, and Sunny Slope does carry a special place for me, just because I think, and this is in general, I think you'll find this out, is again, people, when you live and if you work or do work in the area that you live in, you tend to care more, tend to volunteer more. And so that's why Sunny Slope District 3 means a lot. And I do most of my efforts in there and in Maryville in District.
And Sunny Slope needs work, but it's a beautiful, beautiful area surrounded by these gorgeous mountains. The mountains, it's very pockety.
Yeah, North Mountain. Yeah,
I've done some deals in Sunny Slope. They're like, you sure you want to do it? I'm like, yeah.
Sunny Slope is amazing.
It's a hidden gem, I feel like, because it needs a lot of love and uplifting.
And in case you haven't figured it out, this episode, and hopefully you're still watching, is about community, the city, and like how to take care and find the opportunity in the different areas of town that we're in specifically, but this can apply to every city in the country, doesn't matter where you're at. But I think one thing that makes Sunny Slope and District 3 and the opportunity in there is that you have Councilwoman Stark, Deborah Stark, who is active in her district. With Sunny Slope High School, and which, by the way, people line up outside of Sunny Slope High School like it's a sneaker drop.
I heard
to
about
register
that. I
kids.
heard about something about that. Yeah.
So that the Sunny Slope Vikings, they have a couple different programs that are really engulfed in art as well. But it's pockety. But I think this comes down to your block watch. So East Sunny Slope and West Sunny Slope Block Watch Association, they're really active with the community members. And I think it comes down to your neighborhood specialist. As a realtor, as a flipper, as a wholesaler, whatever you're doing in real estate or whatever you're just doing in your professional and personal life, learn about your neighborhood specialist. Because Crystal Roy, shout out to Crystal Roy, she is the neighborhood specialist for Sunny Slope in the area. She's amazing because she knows the people. She knows the business, she knows the schools, and she knows exactly what the community needs. So build with your neighborhood community, like your officers, because they can help show you, and you can have conversations about what needs to be done, where the opportunity is, and then you can grow together.
And it's about service. So I always, I'm not saying anything bad about people that donate to other countries, but we need a lot of help here in Arizona. So for me, it starts, in the state, in the community I'm passionate about. Mine is mental health, and that's all over the state of Arizona.
And sorry, that's what brought me to Sunny Slope, was because there are a good amount of services, mental health services, addiction, Sunny Slope. Because if you're not familiar with that area, off Hatcher, 7th Street, to all the way to 19th Street, 19th Ave, there's it's pockety. There's John C. Lincoln Hospital, and just up and down Hatcher, and the Hatcher Urban Business League hub, they do a great job of trying to provide services for people as well. So that's why I brought that up, is that Sunny Slope is actively looking for ways, because there's voluntary homelessness and there's involuntary. And I think that's important to understand about homelessness, about who wants help, and who simply doesn't.
Yeah,
but to provide services.
Some people like to live free. They consider freedom, no roof over their head, and on the streets, and that's their choice.
And it's important to know the difference, I think, when discussing homelessness and affordable housing and in mental health, the voluntary and involuntary, different types of situations that you may be in. But that's why I brought up Sunny Slope, is just because it's another place in town that has a lot of resources.
So we always get deep here. That's some deep, good stuff, man, that you guys could gravitate to and watch. But let's talk about your music, your passion for music, bro. How did that start for people who love music, art?
Yeah. So I mean, I've been in radio, like I said, 24 years. I've been DJing before that.
In high school or?
Yeah. I started pretty much freshman high school, man. So I've been in this.
You knew that was something.
I knew I was going to be in radio probably since I was in kindergarten. And so
some of us know, some of us don't, right? Everyone has different journeys along the way.
Yeah, I just knew. Or doing something on a mic was what I was going to do. Because in kindergarten you're like, Mom, C is for cookie, and then I knew that. I was like, I like this. And anytime it was like a play or whatever you're doing in the elementary school, I was like, I gotta have the lead role. I want to do this. And so then I started doing all the school announcements. Now, I did that elementary, middle school, high school. And so I just knew. And by the time the opportunities came around, Houston. And I'm not sure if we have this in Arizona. I've never been invited to one. And if it is happening, I'm ashamed that I've not made myself available. I take the blame, I guess, because I try to make myself extend myself very reachable. But in Houston, it was called the Hispanic Career Day. And so you would have middle schools and high schools from all over the city of Houston. We're talking about a 4 million, 6 million population.
Yeah.
Even back then, that would all gather, go to the Georgia Brown Convention Center, and there would be everyone from radio to whatever skill you wanted to learn that could potentially be a career. They had just the guest panelists. And so there I go.
Opens your mind, right? Like
seventh grade.
As a kid, like, yeah, you need direction, and that caught your attention, right?
My dad was like, I'm picking you up. He was a football coach and an assistant principal. Both my parents come from education. Shout out to them. They both retired.
Awesome. I love educators. And
yeah.
I wanted to be I am a teacher now, but I wanted to be a school teacher.
Yeah. I mean, and so he's like, I'm picking you up. And so that's where early one Saturday morning. And so I went, and it changed. I don't know. It changed my life, but it affirmed that I knew what I wanted to do.
That was your calling.
Yeah. And so shout out to G-Man. He was on a Tejano station. You got to think Tejano was huge in Houston, in Texas at the time. Like, when Tejano music was huge, man. Like watching Selena. Like I've seen Selena perform like as a kid. Like so. At the time, it was at the Tejano station, but like G-Man, he eventually went to Rhythmic Radio, which is
so he was kind of someone you aspired to.
I heard him on a panel. I'd already been listening, but to meet him and to hear him on a panel, I was like, oh yeah, bam. So years later, to be able to work with him, and that was cool.
Was that your first job with him, or?
Yeah.
Because I'm not familiar with him.
My first official gig in radio.
But he was the man, or is he still the person out there?
Yeah, he's on a different station now. Like one thing about radio is like we're always moving, but he's been on the other station for at least probably 15 years at this point.
Nice.
And so radio is it's just been a fun career. And I knew to position myself at an early age to be around people that I wanted to be like and that are doing that I wanted to do.
That's big, guys. We have all these meetups, guys. Just go. A lot of them are free in Arizona, across the country. Maybe you're not comfortable. Just take a friend or, get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, because you never know who you're going to run into.
One person.
Or you're going
to
speak on a panel.
Yeah.
And it can confirm. Or it could be like, you know what? I thought I wanted to do this.
Fact, yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe I like this better, right? So that's why any school, if anyone is watching that has a panel that you're putting together, I like doing panels because maybe one day somebody's seeing what I'm saying.
Is that like a round table of different ideas?
If there were like maybe it could be us two and there was a moderator or maybe three more people.
We should do one of those, yeah.
And, you got your audience and they're able to ask questions because, with industry experts. And I think those people don't pay enough attention at panels. Sometimes in school, you're like, oh, we got to go watch these people, or it's extra credit. But to listen, some people just, like, I've been on panels sometimes, like, what the hell y'all saying? That's just inaccurate information. But then sometimes you're like, wow, I'm taking notes. And I'm like, oh,
that's great stuff.
She knows what she's talking about. And I'm like, all right.
So you were a student of that game. Did you educate yourself as far as book education, or is this more street, like mentorship type of programs? So you went to school for radio too, or?
Yeah, and I quit I changed majors. So I have my associates, then I transferred to University of Houston. And as I'm in radio TV, I remember I like raised my hand in class. I'm like, we don't do this anymore. What do you mean? This technology is
antiquated.
And I'm just like, well, how do you know? I'm like, well, this is what I do. Like, cause
I'm in it every day.
I'd already been in radio at this time. And I'm like, is a semester?
Yes.
And I go, I apologize for doing this in class, but then you're younger, so you're kind of a hothead.
Right.
And then looking back, it was a real dick move. But I just knew that again, you're teaching a class full of technology that is not existing.
It's not going to
and it's not going to. We're not going back.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this semester going to be like this? Is this what the radio TV program is about? And he was like, well, this is my class. And I'm like, and I switched. So I went to public relations and advertising. So I got a double major.
And I think that's a struggle, Crisco, with maybe viewers that are 18, 19. My son's 17 right now. And looking at that state, the college education, like, can we learn quicker on YouTube? Can we learn quicker by going to events?
Right.
But I think, for me at least, it was the experience of being on campus being away from home for the first time,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
meeting a girlfriend, like folding your own clothes,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
before the real world hits, man.
Right.
It was like a safety net for me, at least.
Yeah, well, I think that was the good thing about community college. I love community college.
Uh-huh.
If they wanted me to be a spokesperson for a community, I would 100% recommend it, man. Because trade schools, community college, anything like that, because it is a perfect buffer. Because not everybody's ready to go to a 4-year university,
Right.
especially if you're leaving your city for the first time.
Yeah.
I stayed in the city because I was already working, I was in radio, and this is what I wanted to do in my home city. But I love it because you can still live at home, but figure out how to get the higher
Yeah,
education.
the transition is.
Yeah, it can be tough. 17 to 19, especially
I'm
a
dealing
young
with it
male.
right now. I'm dealing with a young boy that's almost 18.
You can get in some trouble.
Yes, and he's a good kid, but again, he's not uncommon where I could lead him, but he has to make his choices and decisions
Right,
about the
right.
next step in life, right?
Right.
And that's why you mentioned the buffer of whether it's community school, state college, or whatever, because that's a transition in life, bro,
Yeah.
that I can't teach him. He needs to
You gotta figure it
go
out.
do it on his own,
Yeah.
and I'll support and encourage, but he's got to step into it. Just like people watching who want Airbnbs, they want fix and flip. You could pay for someone to do it, but step into it. Like
Do it yourself.
Do
Learn
it
it.
yourself.
Yeah, man.
That's how you really learn.
Yeah.
But then you got me or someone as a mentor when the tough things come up that I've already screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, hey, no, you do it this way. Don't.
And are you offering, like, some people are really picky and choosy, which I believe you should be,
Yes.
on offering your mentorships, right?
We do.
Because time
We
is
do.
so valuable.
Yep.
But when someone does offer the chance to mentor you, take the opportunity, because there's so much knowledge between different people that you've picked up over
Oh,
20
my
years
goodness.
if you're doing it.
It's not only me, it's all those people around me who
Right.
fed into me, who
Right.
like, you do it this way, like,
Yeah.
it's okay,
Yeah.
it's going to work. But I wouldn't have been able to do some of those things on my own
Right,
because
right.
I've never done them. Like,
And I think one thing too, if you're watching this and you're thinking, if you want to be a mentor, I failed as a mentor, simply because I may have known how to do things, but I wasn't ready. And I think a lot of people
in radio, you started mentoring folks, or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, because you're always bringing in people, right? And I've had interns, and I wasn't, even though the knowledge, the skills, everything that you can learn, but as far as putting a full mentorship program or internship program, there were points where I probably shouldn't have brought people in, and I mean that as because I don't feel like I taught them as best as I could have.
I think you're being hard on yourself because every teacher has to get experience teaching. So,
True.
Like I gave what I had in the beginning, but as I grew, I got better in my teaching
Right.
and my information that I was able to, the way I taught too, right?
Yeah.
So
It may have been, I don't think it was a waste of time for them. I hope they don't feel that way. But to know that I could teach you so much better now.
yeah.
And have a
why do you
schedule.
think that? Like, just because
It's just
your
life experience. I figured it out. And even now going back to school, because graduate education, there's definitely a deeper level of thinking than undergrad. And
and you're in a different place in life too. You're not
now I'm a dad.
23.
And yeah, I have a 4-year-old son. So that has definitely changed the way
That'll change your life, yeah. That's
versus
exciting.
10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding how to speak to a 4-year-old, not that saying that kids are 4-year-olds, everybody's a 4-year-old, but understanding how to deliver a message. If I can't deliver a message effectively to my son, who we know as kids, they're not fully processing anything till about 18.
Right.
But
especially as boys.
Right.
And I'm a boy. Like,
Right, so
boys grow differently than girls.
If I'm not communicating as best as I can.
It's all
so
about
that's one thing that kids will teach you is how to communicate even better.
Yes, if you pay attention. Though.
If you pay attention,
You
and this
can't
is
be
what
like
you do.
on your phone. Like when I was teaching my kids, you could ask them. My phone. We sat literally here. I'd pick them up the bus, make them bring their backpack home, and get a snack. Next thing, we're on the couch checking their backpack.
Yeah,
Since kindergarten. That's why they're both straight A students.
There you
And
go.
you know, the next level is up to them, though.
Right.
Like, I already taught them what to do.
Yep.
So
I think, you know, encompassing everything that we've talked about today, I just really want people to understand education, whether it's at a higher learning university. That's what I was talking with Gary Vee about at the Super Bowl.
So you did a show with Gary Vee, or
he's been on my. I've talked with him a couple of times, like maybe
on your
three times.
Show?
Yeah, and so
Gary
and shout
Vee,
out to
we're
VCon.
talking about what is it?
So he's got VCon coming up. The lineup was announced, so I'll be there this year. So it's gonna be
Where's
cool.
that at?
This will be in Indianapolis this year. Last year it was in Minnesota at the Viking Stadium.
So go to these events. I don't know what this one costs, but I'm going to like Belize. I'm going to California Mastermind. Like, just the information and the people you pick up.
Find conferences that you see the speakers that you're interested in. Like I'm going to Emerge Americas in Miami in April, right before my toy drive. I mean
in April you're going to Miami?
Yeah, so it's called Emerge Americas. And so last year Pitbull was a keynote speaker. This year Tom Brady,
hell yeah,
which is one of my just favorite athletes, greatest of all time. But he'll be the keynote speaker, and so
love it.
Seeing what, and that's football. Normally Emerge, it's Web3 crypto based. I like what Mayor Suarez is doing in Miami with the Web3 space. I dabble in that area as well.
And you're hearing Crisco speak about multiple businesses. So we were talking about entrepreneurship, solo entrepreneur. I'm launching into multiple businesses. I believe in today's economy, society, there's no reason you shouldn't have multiple businesses, but get good at your first one.
Right.
That's the critical key. Don't bounce 101 bounce, shout out.
I like it.
Don't bounce to other spots before you fully commit and dig deep. Yeah.
And it's okay to say no. This is one thing that I've had to learn. I had
that's a big one.
Huge.
Because we have a lot of opportunities. Like as you are in radio, you're around a lot of people. Now you got people exposing you to great things, but which one do we take on? So one of the things I always ask my students, how many hours, do you know how many hours you have in a week?
How many?
Total hours. How many?
No, I don't know how many hours I have in a week.
168 hours.
Okay.
So that's what we do. We time block, because if you don't know where your hours are going, what are you doing? Like,
I live by 888.
So you have a system. You already have the system in 3/8, or what is that?
Yeah, that's the way, the code that I try to regulate myself as a man, and my brothers, we know what we're talking about. It's 3. It's divided into 3, and that's how I try to rule my days, by 3.
Nice.
And so it doesn't work out that way all the time.
No,
but it is definitely kind of divided how I need to, or try to, in that focus.
However you organize your day, I think it's important to have that in your brain to organize where you're running, because if you run fast, you got to know the direction. Like, you just don't want to be chasing around that wheel and not knowing where you're the target.
Correct.
The target's big.
Correct. So yeah, man, I think radio has given me the opportunity to get into different careers, different types of.
Just like you preach about diversity, you're diversifying your portfolio.
Diversify your portfolio. Yeah. You really have to, though. I mean, again, whether it's for fun, whether it's a passion project, or whether it's, because most times passion projects turn into real money.
They do.
It becomes your full time.
Yeah.
And you know, just to go back with some of the things I was saying no. It's okay to say no. GJ Reynolds, who, you know, another entrepreneur, he'd be great for your show as well. His wife has one of the biggest followings as for women of faith. You can look that up. But GJ he has his own books, and learning from him to say no and other things, and looking at, just real quick, Gary Vee, that conversation was about higher learning. Continually, educate yourself. But if you're going to spend the money and get into debt, understand why you're getting into debt. And you mentioned the college experience earlier. That's the reason I prefer to go to class on campus, because I felt that I've been able, in the past year and a half, 1 year, my bad, is been able to build with other people who are at the graduate level, some just right out of, getting their degree, and others that have taken time off and gone back but building that network in
And how
person.
fun is that for you too, man?
I love it.
Come around other brains that like you weren't exposed to
That's what
in
you're paying for.
different places in life. And
Right.
to me, having group projects, like I used to hate them, now I love them.
Right, right.
Because that's where the synergy and like collaborate. We do a lot of collaboration now in real estate, and
Yep.
that's where it comes from, man. Like,
Yep.
and it's same thing with artists.
Yep.
Like they collaborate with other artists.
Right. And I think sometimes collaborating, don't get lost in who you are in the collaboration, and don't lose what your intention is behind, right? If you're going to collaborate with
Yes.
other people,
Yes.
understand the why. Why are you collaborating, and what is everyone
Yes,
bringing to
yes.
the table in the collaboration?
And be very detailed in writing. Like I've had people that I've JV'd, we call it joint venture, and I wasn't that detailed, and it bit me in the ass. And
Right.
that's where you have to be, and the other thing is, if you do the same thing I do, and I do the same thing and you do, why do you need me? Like,
Right.
find someone that has other skill set than just,
Exactly.
being a good dude or you
Yeah.
get along well.
Yep. Yeah, because you're talking about flipping and real estate, and we'll probably close with this, but make sure you're learning from good people. And if you're not learning from good people, take what you just minimum need about the business way that they're doing it, and if it applies to you and you can learn a lesson from it, do it. But if not, I had a horrible experience in flipping because I had a POS human being that I was learning from.
What does that mean? POS?
Piece of shit.
Oh, gotcha. And that's a thing.
Sorry, but I mean,
no, that's real talk. Like,
yeah.
And I've had those bad experiences, and you guys will probably have those, and we just try to make a good decision, but sometimes we're rushing our decisions. So really understand who you're going to be working with. Yes.
As best as you can, because I never want to speak or see this person again. And I hold that minimal in my life. Like to get to that with me.
Ooh, yeah.
It's few people that I can put on that.
But that experience, I'm sure in some way has served
I learned
you.
what not to do.
Yep, there you go.
He's based out of here too. He lives in this kind of area. And so, but it was a horrible flip situation in Tucson. He screwed me, screwed my family, and I learned not what to do in a situation.
And listen to this, guys. It's a small world out there. So, I'm friends with a lot of, Arizona has a lot of teachers, and just Rod, or who described it the other day, we had someone on the show, and it was Forrest Blackburn. He said Arizona is like the Silicon Valley of, California for real estate, like creative minds. And I'm like, man, that's right.
It's a small community.
Small community. Right. So if someone does something, maybe it's not intentional. I always like to look at things with, I'm more of a rose-colored glass person. If you keep hearing about that same black story, you're like,
there's multiple stories. I don't even want to say his name. It's not even worth it.
We're not about that. But we're just warning you guys and bringing real stuff. Be careful who you mentorship with, and there's more great mentors than guys or girls that do that.
And this is what I love about, earlier we talked about switching brokerages. Now I was with West USA, which nothing against West USA at all. The people there, the brokers, I was at Kierland office, great people. I just knew I needed to do something different in 2023.
2023 for me is the year of change, man.
I'm not even drinking like near what I've done in my last.
We have the tequila here.
No, well, I'll take a shot, but I have not gone out and like how I'm known for like in my life.
Okay.
Just because I don't like the way I wake up anymore.
No.
And my son, I need to be clear because there's a lot of decisions, there's a lot of opportunities, and I feel like for me personally, at that level that I need to perform at. One of the things that I knew that I had to take serious was my health, because I'm a cancer survivor. 2004 I had cancer, so I probably should have done this a long time ago. But now you're doing it. Now I'm super focused. And for me to perform at the optimal level that I need to, with school and everything that I'm doing as a father, I have to be
all about health as well, I can. Right? I mean,
exactly. It's cliche, but it is so true.
It's fact. So. Real quick, we're going to end in a minute here, but I recently brought on Brian, He's a mindset, like he's like one of the #1 trainers in the world. He worked with Bob Proctor, so I recently joined his mastermind. But one of the questions, Brian, and he's in Miami, so I'm going in May for the multifamily convention. That I'm going to hang out with him and some folks out in Miami. I've never been, but one of the questions he asked me, and I'm going to ask you guys, what is mindset? Do you have a definition? Because when he told, I had a hard time explaining to him. What mindset? Yeah.
I mean, to me, my mindset would be my mentality that is based on experience, that is based on what I perceive or my perception.
Okay.
And how I am disciplined to go after what I am wanting to accomplish. To me, that's my mindset on what I'm set on doing, off what I have perceived and what I want to accomplish in my experience.
Like it. So I was very similar, and what he told me
it's probably something super simple. Too deep, sorry.
That was deep. And I'm the same. Mindset is a program, a track that we're born, and we have experiences. So it's like a computer system in our brain, and we have certain paradigms that aren't true, that we have told ourselves. So I'm excited to do this 6-month program with him.
Nice.
Because he has a large community, and he's the one that told me, Flip, you got a couple businesses. When you met me 4 years ago, I had a couple, now I have 40.
Nice.
He's got 40 businesses. I'm like, whatever you're doing, I'm in. So we're always growing here and doing our best for people, and service is key. But how do people reach out to you, Crisco? And
everything is what you should be. It should be super simple and the same name across all platforms. It's Crisco Kid, 2 D's on the Kid. Follow me for, again, radio. We got a lot of cool stuff happening on 101.1 The Bounce and on Pitbull's Globalization. For real estate, it is Close with Crisco. Everything is on there. Again, I'm with Jason Mitchell Group, and that has been a great move this past year. A lot of great mentorship, a lot of opportunity to sit in mastermind classes, coaches classes, which I've only been there 2 months, or less than 2 months, and I appreciate that already from that brokerage. If you want to get into tiny homes, I started my first tiny home about 3 weeks ago.
Ooh, interesting.
And it has been a great experience. I'm learning how to do it myself. I was going to do a contractor, but they were charging ridiculous prices right now. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I have a good, cool neighbor, and we've been just kind of working on it. And so I'm seeing a little vision. One of my other partners that I do the Airbnbs with, we were talking about 3D printing homes for affordable housing and different projects and land grants. But I think we're still putting that on the back burner, but want to go into the tiny home, either Airbnb or tiny home communities as an option for affordable housing as well.
Follow this guy, because he is on to something. Affordable housing community.
Right.
Like, I love it, bro.
Thank you. And that's it, man. Let's win 2023. Make it the best year of your life. Let's go.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Peace.
Let's go, man. Cut the curve.